Hello, Vikings! This is Lucila for PSU-TV, reporting the news from our studio. Welcome to our first weekly news broadcast. On our first segment, I interviewed Robert McChesney and John Nichols, who came to PSU to promote their new book, The Death and Life of American Journalism.
Well, our book is about the crisis in journalism in America today. Every month in the United States, more than 1,000 journalists and newspaper workers lose their jobs. We have huge layoffs in this industry. Last year we had 140 newspapers around the country close. We're seeing a dying off of journalism, and the reason we wrote our book was because of a deep concern on our part that without strong and dissenting and challenging and exciting journalism, our democracy itself begins to wither. So this is really a call to action.
The key thing about journalism isn't the technology. What journalism requires to be done effectively, historically through to the present day, are resources. You need people who are paid to do things, who are accountable, who have copy editors and fact checkers, and we need institutions that have the strength to support journalists, especially if they do work that might antagonize people in power. Vibrant, healthy institutions. And the internet won't produce those magically. The evidence is already in. Those require public policy and probably subsidies to make sure they do come into existence. Now what the internet can do, and I think many people are excited by it, is it can democratize our journalism in the sense that it can empower people to become much more participatory in producing journalism. But they can't do it on their own. I mean, they work best, I think the best way to understand it is that citizen journalists and the blogosphere works best when there's a professional layer of journalism and competing newsrooms that they can interact with. They can comment on the stories, they can kick them along, but they can't create that in and of their own labor.
What we're talking about is really taking traditional journalists, people who work for newspapers, television, radio, as well as these new folks coming in, and find resources so that they can focus on it. That something, I don't care whether you call them a reporter for a newspaper or a blogger, whatever they're doing, if they're covering important events, if they're covering public affairs, whatever they're working on, that they can make a living doing it. This notion that we can get it on the cheap, that we can just say, well, you know, there'll be all these people out there and somebody will cover it, somebody will take care of it, just isn't working.
We cannot be the governors of our lives, the definers of our foreign policy as citizens, unless we know about the rest of the world. The collapse of our media system, the failure of our commercial media to cover the rest of the world denies us the information that we need to exercise our humanity, our civility, and our engagement with other countries. Our media is cutting us off from the world.
Free Press was an organization that John and I co-founded with Josh Silver 8 years ago. And the principle behind Free Press is that our media system and our journalism, but all of our media system, is the result of public policies that are made in the public's name, but oftentimes with very little public consent. They're made behind closed doors by powerful commercial interests that dominate them and that basically have their way with our politicians and our regulators, who are supposed to be working for us, not them. And the point of Free Press is to increase the public awareness and involvement in these debates so that when media policies are made, our interests are taken seriously. We play a crucial role. It's not just commercial and corporate interests that get their way. And the work, though, as we've gotten bigger, we've realized how daunting the task is, because the crucial fights we face, like preventing major media monopolies from developing, or keeping public and community broadcasting from getting their funding, and student broadcasting to get the funding it deserves, we're going up against enormous and powerful monopolies and corporations. And there's one fight I think every PSU student should be desperately concerned about, in addition to the fight over journalism, which is the battle to keep the internet open and uncensored. It's called network neutrality. And the phone and cable giants that basically control the internet access in the United States today, broadband, are desperately trying to effectively privatize the internet and make it their private plaything where they can pick which websites come through and which don't, and they get a cut of the action. And if they're successful, and they're spending a fortune to try to become successful, it will destroy the internet as a democratic medium. It will be a major blow for our society and our culture. We'll win this fight if people stand up and say that's ridiculous, and we organize on it. And Free Press is the group leading that fight. So I hope people will look into it to work on that issue and many others.
So, if you want the internet to be free, go to freepress.net and sign your petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
PSU-TV has been following ASL's transition from the Speech and Hearing Department to the Foreign Language Department since fall term. Here's a recap of the ongoing story and its final resolution.
PSU does give foreign language credit to ASL, but the curriculum, the structure, and everything else that incorporates the teaching of an ASL or of a language, including culture, is not really there when it comes to ASL being instructed here on campus compared to any other actual foreign language, like in the foreign language department.
A decision was made to move ASL to the Foreign Language Department starting fall 2010. For more information about the transition, here's P.V. Jantz.
The primary person that actually helped with the decision was the Dean of Liberal Arts, and that would be Marvin Kaiser. He himself pretty much took on the responsibility to start the conversation with the two departments, the foreign language and the speech and hearing department, and essentially did some research, took in some feedback, and then went ahead and made the decision to go ahead and transfer it over. And I think it's important to mention that it needs to be duly noted and recognized that ASL was started and brought here by the speech and hearing department, and there's a lot of gratitude for that implementation here on campus. And right now, it's just a matter of the time being changed, and now is the time for it to be moved over to the foreign language department in order for it to be able to continue to grow.
PSU-TV also spoke with the chair of the Speech and Hearing Sciences Department, Dr. Thomas Dolan, to get his views.
We've always recognized ASL as being a language, a true language, a bona fide language. And in fact, our professional organization, American Speech Language Hearing Association, spells that out. This is a true language. So that's always been our approach. We've had a great collaboration with the Foreign Languages Department over the last 4 years, and we've been tremendously successful in attracting students outside the department to ASL, and I support them completely in what they're doing now and will continue to do so.
I'm actually very excited. I feel like this is just a door that's being opened, and I see nothing but huge growth for this department. I'm really excited to see more of an ASL presence here on campus.
PSU-TV also spoke with Dr. Patricia Wetzel of the Foreign Language and Literatures Department. While her schedule did not permit an interview, she sent this following statement. Foreign Language and Literatures, next year to be renamed World Languages and Literatures, is happy to welcome ASL and its faculty to our unit. We are hopeful that they will be able to build a thriving program that attracts students from all over campus.
Hydration stations were introduced last term, providing students a green alternative to bottled water at various campus locations. Are you tired of spending hundreds of dollars in bottled water? Are you frustrated with complicated water fountains? Well, fear not, the hydration station is here.
We had a student group approach us, and they wanted to put one of these hydration stations in the lobby of Smith Memorial Student Center, and we did that for them, and it was pretty successful. And this last summer, we got some state stimulus money, to do some remodeling in both Kramer Hall and Newberger Hall, and we had to do some work on the drinking fountains, so we thought, well, let's just install these at the same time. So we put 2 of these in Kramer Hall, and we put 3 of them in Newberger Hall, and replaced the one in Smith. Well, the regular fountains just provide water in a standard drinking fountain form. The water is typically not filtered. Even though the water is clean, some people don't like the taste of it because it's coming through older pipes. But this system here provides easy access to fill your water bottle, and it also has a ultraviolet light that filters the water, and there's another filter system inside of it. So the water generally tastes a little better, and it's easy to fill water bottles with. And the idea was there to be able to count how much water was dispensed through the unit, and then we could divide the number of water bottles that people would normally have bought water with and show how many bottles we are not selling, which is a good thing for the environment. As I've been standing here for the couple of minutes, we saw 3 or 4 people come in and use these things, so this is highly successful little venture on the students' part, and we're glad to be part of it.
That's it for this week's news edition. This was Lucila for PSU-TV. See you next time.